All right, so gonna go all middle school, high school on you for a second here. Pop test. What one thing would Mick Douglas have you do? What one thing, if you could do one and only one thing, what would Mick have you do? Other than drink. Yeah, that's a close second, maybe first for some of your organizations. He would have you monitor DNS, right? DNS monitoring, yes, for the win. You also notice there was I'm not real social media active. You know, some of you might know this and shame me for this, but there was I lurk, right? There was a Sim Summit question about what's your top log? Yeah, and which one won? This one. I don't know if it actually did, but I'm going to pretend it did because it suits my purpose. All right, so we're going to dig into DNS. Normally this is a much longer presentation, so I go into lots of gory details on DNS and how it works, but I'm just going to trust that if you're here, you probably understand this whole DNS thing, at least at some basic level, so we'll dispense with all that nonsense. Why do adversaries love DNS, and how do adversaries love DNS? Well, in some respects, adversaries love DNS because we love DNS, because we are absolutely hooked on DNS. We require DNS. It's effectively like the lights. We ignore it until they go out. We don't care about DNS. We just assume it's all working. It's infrastructure. We assume it's all working. We ignore it until it quits working, and then, oh my gosh, everyone is aware of DNS. It's required. It's required for everything. But there's a cooler reason that adversaries love it. We ignore it, we expect it to exist, but we also allow it outbound, and we allow it outbound from a proxied perspective. So it's not just this direct outbound, right, egress. You have systems, and I've worked in many organizations, clients will tell me, oh, sorry, that system isn't allowed to talk to the internet. Liar. Yeah, it's not, no, it can't. Sure it can't. Chances are really good that even if it can't, quote unquote, talk to the internet, it can resolve publicly available host names, and that's kind of the same thing. It's just that that system isn't directly reaching out. It goes to your DNS server and reaches out. And that's beautiful, well, because it makes things work, but it's beautiful for the adversaries too, because that DMZ system that Mick popped, even if it couldn't ping outbound, whenever I get a command injection, right, he said oh dear, what'd I do? Whenever he gets a command injection, he pings outbound. I don't do a ping. I do a NS lookup. Why? Because ping often fails, right? People will block outbound IC and people say, oh, no, you don't need to ping the universe. But do you need to resolve it? Yeah, chances are real good. So adversaries absolutely love this, and there's good reason for it. How do they use this? Well, they use it in a couple different ways. Yes, there's the aspect of all exploits nowadays are largely client-side exploitation, at least initially. To break into your organization, it's a client-side exploit. So they're going to have you click some link, they're going to deliver email, right? Client-side necessarily seems to use host names. But what's more interesting to me and more important to me is the post-exploitation activity. So tunneling, that's been mentioned a couple of times. C2, command and control. How do the adversaries continually wield those systems that they've compromised over and over and over again for months, for years? And you're unwitting. You're oblivious to this. So we're going to focus more so on the post-exploitation side of things, but in truth, we can catch the exploitation as well. So looking at the DNS ecosystem, yes, it's proxied. Here are pieces. We're not going to talk through all of these pieces by any means. We're going to focus on primarily the request side of the equation. So DNS request side versus response side. We're going to look at DNS requests and look at what we can gain, what we can understand, how we can catch the adversaries just by looking at DNS requests that are going outbound. First up, when you're doing name resolution, you're going to hit a TLD. Right? So you go talk to the root. Root says, I don't know where it is. Points you to an authoritative name server for like org or com or something like that. Okay, that's normal, that's fine. But some TLDs are just a little different. How many TLDs do we have nowadays? You got like com and net and org. Any others? Yeah. There's a .ninja. Oh, yeah. .blue, you might have seen that one on there. I didn't know that .blue was a thing. There's .colors. So I registered sans.blue. I thought that was awesome. And then just to piss Ed off, I also registered sans.red. Right? So I got sans.red, and I'm holding it, right? I'm squatting on it. I'm like, $1 million, right? Yeah. Sure, you can have it anytime you want for a price. So one thing that we've all seen are the GTLDs, right? The generic TLDs, the comms, the orgs, as opposed to the CCTLDs, which are country code ones. The GTLDs, now it's freaking gone wild, right? There's 2,000 different GTLDs. What? Yeah, 2,000, and it's just growing. And Google released their code so that you can more easily become your own, you can more easily host your own TLD, which is awesome. And we're going to get a bit controversial here, but some TLDs are just kind of evil. They're just kind of sketchy. So some countries are sketchy. Did you know that you can get a free domain? Yes, of course you did. You probably all have free domains. But free. Like extra super free. Not just, hey, if you pay for domain hosting, you get it free. Yeah, that's not free. No. Free. Like, I don't have to put in a credit card. I might only have to put in an email address. I might not even have to put in an email address. Who knew? Yeah, there are country code TLDs that exist just for this purpose. So, I don't know. Look, geography was not my strong suit. Just going to throw it out there. So, some of you might be like, oh, yeah, Tokelo. Yeah, I have no idea where in the world that is until I saw this other map. See, this is a really strange map that I don't remember studying in geography, but it's a map of the world. But it's a different sort of map of the world. Because what we've got here is this is the world according to the number of domains registered to that country code. So here are your CCTLDs. And the size is proportional to the number of domains that exist. So as you would expect, .cn, right? Pretty large, right? And there's .tk. Wow, that's just stupid big. So the reason this is interesting is because, I don't know about you, but have you ever been to a .tk domain? Like, other than doing malware analysis? Anyone ever like, oh, you know what? I need to buy something from the Tokelians. They're great at making, yeah, sure. It's like 5 square miles or something, and yet there's a stupid number of domains. Let's see, you don't count. He has. There's a lot more on TK domains. Is there? Jake Williams has heard that there's a lot of porn. He hasn't witnessed it, but someone told Jake, right? Someone told @malwarejake, overheard @malwarejake. Well, that's good. You know, always looking for some fresh sites. So now what's funny to me is that there are going to be a lot more of these, right? Not for porn purposes. That's a different, just come on, get back here, right? So not for porn purposes, there's going to be a lot more of these free CCTLDs. Why? This is just sad. Tokleo doesn't actually run .tk. That's kind of weird. So who runs the country's TLD? I don't know, some outfit in Netherlands that says they make over $1 million a year just by running something that's totally free. They are aggressive, very, very aggressive with ad parking, right? So if you quit using the domain, they rip it away from you and they put some ads up there. They love it if you've got malware that's using this for command and control, because man, they are getting lots of traffic to that. That's beautiful for them, right? So that's fun. Another fun list is, and I just love this, I have to represent it because it's just a fun name report. So they talk about the shady TLDs. It's like the shadiest neighborhoods on the internet. That just feels weird to me, right? Don't go down that alley. Oh, you know what's down there? .review is down there, right? This is the percentage of evil, right? What percent of these TLDs point to evil, right? So Magic 8 Ball, you go to a .science domain, shake, signs point to evil, right? Because it's 99.35% evil, right? There's like Bill Nye, and that's it, That's it. It's like him, and he's the only one that has a legit .science domain, right? Now, that's kind of fun, but what are you going to do with this, right? Are you going to whitelist this? Are you going to say, hey, only com? Right. Yeah. Are you going to blacklist it? Haha, .tk, take that. Well, I like the idea of blacklisting it. I'm okay with being a racist when it comes to like stopping malware spreading in my organization. If this country has like no legitimate sites that my business needs to hit, right? Just freaking purge them from the universe as far as I'm concerned. But then the question is what? But when you're presenting this and you're like, oh, we're going to block all the .tks, we're going to block all the blah, what's someone going to say? Probably somebody in security, because we're just like wired this way to look for the odd little aberrant idiosyncrasies. But there's that one site. Well, what happens if, and you've all done this before, what happens if the executive, they go to golf.tk or some crap like that, right? Because I don't know what they do, right? Yeah, and then you just blocked it? Yeah. That is not part of the salary continuity program for your life, okay? You don't want to do this. So we need to do some sanity checking. Before I'm going to go and smack all the things, I need to see, well, what's the collateral damage? Like, how many legit .tk domains are there? I have no freaking idea, right? So here's what I did. I grabbed a bunch of suspect domains, and then I grabbed a bunch of normal domains. So I just, splatted some lists together, and it ends up with roughly about the same number, about 15,000 suspect or suspicious domains, and like 17,000 odd normal domains. Now, just a heads up, OpenDNS random 10K, some people ask questions about that. It's random but benign, right? So they specify that. It's not just, hey, random, and it could be evil. No, it's random and it's okay. So I'm going to sanity check here. So what are our TLDs that are represented in the sketchy list? What are the TLDs that are represented in the normal list? So here we go. Big surprise, com is on both lists, net is on both lists, org is on both lists. And that's not really what I'm concerned with, because I'm not going to whitelist or blacklist any of those. But I'm looking for, is there a potential for blacklisting? What about these suspect domains? So how many false positives? I take my suspect domain list, I look at these TLDs, how many false positives do I get in normal? So there are 91 hits of the 17,000 good. There are 91 hits for .biz in the good. That's fairly low incidence. There is apparently one .win. Now, in truth, these are not necessarily false positives, are they? They could be true positives that we just don't realize they're sketchy until we look at them because of this, right? We're like, .win? Sure, that's probably fine, right? So let's look more carefully. Here are ones that had 0 false positives. .accountant. I could have told you that one coming in, right? That's nothing but sketchy right there. .science. Aw, I just cried a little, right? It's just not happy times. Oh, look, there's one of our free CCTLDs. .gq. I don't know if you were paying attention. That's Equatorial Guinea for the geography folks. I almost said geology. Wouldn't that have been great? For the geology majors in the room, right? What else are we going to look at? So we looked at TLDs, and I do honestly think we could do well with blocking a lot of those TLDs. Now, whenever you're going with the blacklist, you have to be able to nimbly respond to the false positives. So operationalize that so that when golf.tk gets blocked, right, you want to have it automatically unblocked as soon as the email comes in, right? As soon as the ticket comes in, right, ticket comes from exec that shows blacklisted, blocked site, you have it automatically behind the scenes unblock and be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I can't reproduce that, right? Yeah. Again, salary continuity program. So other elements that we can look at from a DNS. Doug actually hinted at this. This is something that Justin refers to in Sec 555 as baby domains. I talk about that new domain smell. You know that new car smell? Like you go and you're like, hey, I want a pre-owned vehicle. It just doesn't have that new car smell anymore, right? And there's just something about that new car smell that you never get back. The new domains, brand new domains. Like think about this. Think about how often you visit sites And how long have they existed? How long have they been around? Imagine how awesome someone's marketing skills would have to be if they could get you to visit their site within a year of the domain being registered. Now, I'm not talking about the site being hosted. I'm talking about the domain being registered. So, like two guys at a party hitting a bong, and they're like, hey, dude, you know it'd be a great domain name? Or like a band name or something like that. And they go and register that. And like within a year, you're actually visiting that, right? They're not even sober yet, right? There's no way you're going to visit them yet, okay? So within a year of registration, unlikely. But you think, oh, well, there is that one. Or some of you are in that business where you do like funding for startups and stuff, and you're like, oh, yeah, well, we're the exception. We're the beautiful, unique snowflake. Yes, you are. Yes, you are, right? Well, let's just narrow it down. How about 6 months? 30 days? Within 30 days? Really? 30 days of being registered, you're going to visit them. That's kind of crazy. When did I register Sans.blue? That's a good question. I have no idea, right? When I realized it existed, right? It's like, oh, well, that's fun, and it's cheap. Let's do this, right? So probably less than 6 months ago. No, more than 6 months ago now. Yay, right? But it was right before Cyber Defense Net Wars came online, so those folks would have been visiting that within 30 days for sure. Now, one of the things you're going to find about all these techniques that I talk about, there is not a single one that I would say is foolproof, that is perfect. They are all, to me, I view them as context to the analyst, right? I'm not going to pounce and like throat punch every single one of these detects, like not a chance, because I know that I'm going to get smacked if I do that. So this is context. Like, how old is this domain? And then you take it further and you say 30 days? How about 24 hours? I think we can all draw the line there and say, you know what? I feel like there is nothing normal about visiting a site that's only been alive for 24 hours. Can we all, yeah? You're like, well, there is this. No, there is not this one, right? That is the line. Just get over it, right? So the reason this is important, there's multiple reports on this. OpenDNS has some great research talking about the magnitude EK, so magnitude exploit kit, that they would start using domains no more than 24 hours after they had been registered. So every single domain was being used within the first 24 hours of its existence. That's not normal. That's a little weird. But again, we have to look at this. So we get this from registration information. We get this from whois. We hop into whois. We pull back creation date. We pull back created. Unfortunately, registration information is not structured data. There's not a required structure of this. And so some registrars will not put it in there at all. They will have different names for this, and it varies all over the place. And that's unfortunate, right? But again, we're not focusing on and attempting perfection. We're trying to just get better. We're trying to detect some potentially sketchy things. Now let's actually look at the names. Who we're actually making requests of. So I refer to this as, you named your baby what? Like, there's no way someone was sitting around going, you know what, I'm going to name my domain? Blah, 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 right? No. We're going to look at these names, and we're going to look at names and be able to tell potentially that they're sketchy. We'll have to look at this one a bit more carefully. What I'm trying to figure out and what I'm trying to catch are domain generation algorithms, DGAs. So this is adversary automatically instantiating new domain, and malware using it automatically. Now, we are all about some blacklist. We just are, fundamentally. We know this. The adversaries know this. And, of course, they're going to try to bypass this. So they're not probably going to call their super special, awesome evil, evil.com. Just, it might happen. It might happen, but it's unlikely that they're going to do that forever. So what they employ is rapid turnover and programmatic generation. So they're constantly generating new domains, and they're switching to those new domains very, very rapidly, so that by the time you've blacklisted it, they've already moved on, like 6 or 7 times. And you feel good about blacklisting it. Shun it now. Yeah. And if only you went back in time, 88 miles an hour in your DeLorean, like a year ago, you'd have totally caught them then. Like, we're just chasing our tail. So what we need to do is be able to better detect this. So here's some sample Necker's DGA. So that clearly looks normal, right? So, oh yeah, I've been there. No, you haven't, right? Also look at the TLDs just as a pro tip, right? That's not what we're focused on at this level, but you know, most of those are not .com. We got a couple, but most of them are not .com. .graphics, who knew that existed? Now, we wanted to detect this. One way of finding this stuff is by looking at entropy, looking at disorder. They're not using normal sounding domains. They don't look normal when you look at them. Most DGAs are going to use random character generation and random character sequences. There are some, just as a heads up, there are a few. I'm aware of like, I think last I looked there were like 9 different variants that used XKCD 936 style DGAs, which is the correct horse battery staple, right? There are some. There are totally some that do this. They use word list, like, you know, word list and cobble those word lists together. But the overwhelming majority do not do this. Overwhelming majority do crap like this. And I don't know about you, but there's no way I named my baby that, right? No, you spell it with a Y, not an I. No, that's just not normal. .pw, that's just cute, right? .so, it's a shared object, it's fine. Now that's great that you could see that. I could see that, you could see that. I imagine probably everyone in here could pick up that those were not normal names. But you know what job I don't want? Like, I would much rather be the spam monkey than like watching every domain request and going, oh, there's a bad one. No, that, like, my will to live is just being sucked just thinking about that as my job, right? That's terrible. So we need to do this with something other than our eyes. We need to do this in a programmatic fashion. Now, I'm going to go through this one quickly because, spoiler alert, it sucks. Ent. Ent sounds like, oh my gosh, that's what I need. I need entropy. This is entropy, Ent. It'll work perfectly. No, it does not. It does not work well at all. Right? It sounds like a good idea at the time until you try to wield it. So entropy gives you bits per byte measure of disorder, randomness. It's great for figuring out that something is encrypted data. Yeah, it's not great at looking at an 8-character domain name and saying, well, that's not normal English. It sucks at that. So here's me doing it, and spoiler alert, blah, 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 go, go, go. Right, 8 is like totes random, and it did all right there. And then we try another one, and don't pay attention too much. Just spoiler alert, it sucks. 94% false positive for 10-character domain names. Oh, that's not really useful, right? So this is where I was stuck for some years. Now, in truth, there are some great DGA detection algorithms out there, and they're all commercial, right? So SourceFire's got some, yay! OpenDNS has some, yay! They're both owned by Cisco now. They're not giving them away for free. I'm just going to throw it out there. They'll talk about them in really cool blogs, and you're like, oh man, that's so clever. Oh, buy our product. Oh, never mind, right? So there's that. So here's what you do. You write a class, you whine about something, about a problem that you haven't been able to solve because you're just not smart enough, and then you have Mark Baggett take your class, right? And you say, hey, Mark, can you sit in on my class, right? So Mark, while a TA for me, he's TA'd for me like twice, I think, when I was teaching 511, he's a TA for me, and I'm whining about how dumb I am, and I'm like, oh, it sucks, it doesn't work. And then Mark walks up, and some of you know Mark, like, he doesn't just throw it out there like, I'm awesome, you're not. He walks up, he's like, well, I might be able to help you solve. He just makes it rain Python scripts of joy at all times. That's just what he does, right? And so he actually solved this problem for me. And it was awesome because he did it like before morning break. Yeah. Wow. Try harder, Seth. So he created freq.py. Now, he didn't, strictly speaking, create freq.py before morning break. He just said, well, I've already written something that kind of does this, and I've been using it just not for this. So he uses natural language processing technique to try to make more efficient blind SQL injection. So rather than guessing, hey, is it greater than M? Right, the binary sort crap that we all used to do, and some of us still do, lame. So he said, wait, no. Not all characters occur with the same frequency, right? It's not half of them above M, half of them below M. That's not the way the world works. So he built these frequency tables and said some characters are more likely to occur than others. So why don't we try to get more efficient? But then he took it a step further, and he used bigrams. He said, rather than just looking at like Wheel of Fortune style RSTLNE, or looking at the Scrabble tiles and saying, hey, the ones that give you really low point values, those are the ones that are likely to exist, right? We're there, yeah? So if you get 8 points for it in Scrabble, it's probably an awesome tile to have if you're good at Scrabble, and it sucks if you're not good at Scrabble, right? You're like, wow, I can do nothing with this, right? Thanks, Q, X. Right? It's just not happening. So he looked at bigrams. This is character pairings. It's not just how likely is Q to exist. It's looking at Q and saying, you know what? Magic 8 Ball told me that it's going to be you like all the freaking time, right? The next character. It just makes sense. Now you have to teach your tool this, and so he did. He downloaded a tremendous amount of public domain text, speeches, and that's the obligatory. If you're repping Mark Baggett, that's the picture you're required by law to use, I think. So now let's get creepy and dive into his eye. So get your freak on, right? Get your freq.py on. This is us showing, hey, wait a second, int was bad. Well, is this bad too? So in this case, higher equals more likely to be naturally occurring. So higher value is good. 40 is the max by default. So QU, that's 40. That scores 40 with his default frequency tables. So higher number equals more likely to naturally occur. So here we go. I'm going to take 10 characters from wrandom, and I'm going to shove freq against it, and it says, hey, it's got a 0.0. Okay, well, without context, that's indicative of, well, nothing, okay? So let's look at more. Now, let me take, I think it's 14 characters in that case. Somebody count real quick. I take 14 character, and this is one of those Necker's DGAs. 0.98. So that doesn't look like it's naturally occurring. Well, it's certainly no 40, but we need to sanity check this. So here's another one. This is a 10-character DGA. So these are all sketchy examples. Random, sketchy 14, sketchy 10. So we want them to be low. That one scores a 1.69. But of course, int looked all right until we tested it additionally. So let's look for false positives. So we had a 14-character that had a score to 0.98. I take every exactly 14 character domains in the Alexa top 1 million, and there's a little over 40-odd thousand, okay? Exactly 14 characters. And I say, how many of these 40,000 scored more freaky than blah, right? How many? So how many false positives do we have? And this is just, yeah, that. 5. 5 out of 40,000. You know what? That's a false positive, so we're going to have to throw it out? Oh, hell no, this is awesome. You had no reason to necessarily know that this was sketchy. It just programmatically said, hey, this looks kind of randomish. That's tremendous, right? Because now you're not dependent upon that blacklist. Now you're figuring this out. Well, we did all right on that 14-character one with even int. So let's test that 10-character one when things get real bad. 84,000 Alexa domains in the top 1 million. How many scored freakier than that? We had 40. 40 out of 80,000. I'm going to take those odds. That's really awesome. And again, this is not something that I'm going to use for like, this is perfectly evil. I'm not going to pull the trigger and automatically shun something if it scores above a certain threshold. You might decide after a little bit of testing and training that you want to do this, but I want to use it for context for my analyst. I want to slap it up right beside some list of domain, and it says, hey, by the way, this guy's only 24 hours old. It's a TLD of .tk, and by the way, it also looks really sketchy. All of those things, you look at the spectrum of benign, suspicious, malicious, all those things added up, they sure look a lot sketchier, and that's without you knowing anything, without having any signature that popped whatsoever, just by looking at data that you already possibly have, and then wielding some Mark Baggett Python, right? I forgot to look at what time I started, so survey says, yay! Oh, look at that, I got plenty of time. All right, so other things that we can do on the query side of the equation. We can look at the requests, the records that are being requested. So normally you do a lookup, you expect it to be a quad A or an A. All right, quad A is IPv6, A, IP4. Okay. Quad A or A. Yes, there are others, MX, right, SOA, NS, but How often do normal people look for TXT records? They're totally legit, but normal users don't often do this, except some security tools actually do this now as a feature for doing like, hey, let me look up Qumri and see if it's on the malware hash registry and stuff like that. You'll see some weirdo edge cases, but by and large, users don't do TXT lookups. Maybe tools on their box do, but more likely it's servers associated with DNSSEC, associated with anti-spam. How about the null record? Yeah, that one is not even legit. And yet it occurs, in particular when somebody is using certain DNS tunneling tools, like Iodine, which is very popular, very fast. That's one of the methods that it can use for DNS tunneling. It uses null records. Most of your systems will allow it. Because your DNS service is like, well, I don't know what that is, but it's probably okay. It's probably, yeah, I don't know. And it'll totally work. And that's lame, and it's really, really loud, and really, really proud, and most of us aren't looking at this, so we miss it. Other things that we can look at on the query side, I think Mick mentioned this. Somebody mentioned this earlier today. I think Mick did. Dynamic DNS providers. This is the, hey, well, I've got my system at home, and I don't have a static IP address, but I want to be able to hit it at all times, right? That doesn't sound like a business use case. I'm just going to throw it out there. That doesn't sound like something that your business needs to actually interface with. But almost all of you allow this. Beautiful thing about this for the adversaries, they're old. They've been around for a really long time. And if you look at just the domain itself, it's got a good reputation, been around for a while. Frequency score, low, right? But if you can figure out which of these are dynamic DNS providers, why do you allow that? Most of you do, because you're scared of blocking something. But you can allow and detect, maybe tag it with a little bit of, hey, this is more suspicious. So there's some list, and oh my gosh, there are thousands of them, by the way. Right? If you think, oh, well, it's a short list of like 5 or 6, you're wrong. You're wrong. I didn't know how many there were, and I looked at those lists, and my jaw just dropped. It's like, wait, what? How many of these are there? Yes, sir. So question, have I found anyone that's using dynamic DNS legitimately for corporate? I haven't, right? That's not to say it's not going to happen, but I haven't seen it used. I've seen it used legitimately, but what I would consider to be outside of policy. I've seen admins do this, but I've not seen it where the business actually intended and needed to do this. It was just a, hey, I can make this work, that sort of thing. So it's a little, hey, hold my beer. And I'll fix this up real quick, like. But I haven't seen it used like, hey, my DNS service provider is doing this. Yes, sir. Mirai botnet disrupted one of the big DNS providers, but it wasn't dynamic DNS, right? So the name of the company was DynDNS, and that's what's throwing you, right? Yeah, good question. So long DNS queries. And I'm going to put some splats on the front and back of long because some of you are going to try to throat punch me by saying this. Because there's so many false positives potentially here. You're going to have to do a lot of work whitelisting if you're going to go for long DNS queries. But the reason to look at this is because if someone's trying to do DNS tunneling or exfiltration via DNS, they're often going to have extremely long queries that are used so that they can get more data out with each individual request. So just a heads up, but again, it's not perfect. And the last one, and no, this is not like funky resolution. This is intentional. Your eyes are not going out. Why do we include this? Because it looks awesome. That's one reason. This is an art project by the creator of Nmap. What? Yeah, Fyodor created this. It was actually, I don't know if it still is, it was hanging in a museum of modern art for a while. And it's digital art. You can actually zoom in, zoom out. What it is, the reason it looks all pixely is because the image is created from favicons. And the bigger the favicon is presented on the screen, the more popular this is as a destination. Now, the reason I mention this is because where do your people go? There's a reason the Alexa Top 1 Million are the Alexa Top 1 Million. There's a reason the OpenDNS, or Umbrella Top 1 Million are the Umbrella Top 1 Million. It's because everyone goes there. Now, I know you think you're a beautiful, unique snowflake, and I know your mama told you you're really, really special, but you're just not that cool, right? You're like, wait, but I go to very clever hipster sites that no one knows about. Yeah, it's probably like 5,000, right? Just get over yourself. You're not that cool. You're just as lame as everyone else in the universe. Deal with it, okay? So the overwhelming majority of all traffic that you will see going outbound goes to these guys, right? So now you could, and this might be a bit much, you could just say, hey, ignore it. Let me see what's not in those lists. You would make your job easier. Now, just because it's in Alexa Top 1 Million doesn't mean it's good, just means it's popular, right? So it could be really, really popular evil, okay? And that would fly under the radar. But that's why we don't wield any one detect. That's why we wield all these detects as context, so that you can look and say, well, it's in the Alexa Top 1 Million, but it's only been around for 6 months, and the freak score is this, right? You're making a case. But you don't want to have your analyst be forced to jump through all those hoops and to even know that those hoops exist, to be honest. I want this to be context that's immediately presented to them, and then just train them on why they should care and when they should care. And that, to me, is a much more solvable problem than making sure that every one of your analysts have this depth of knowledge of DNS that, quite frankly, I see a lot of networking folks don't. And that's poor. So, you're ready to drink the Kool-Aid. You want this data. Where do you get it? You hit up Doug Burks. This is the real answer. You hit up Doug Burks and you say, hey, I'd like to talk to you about Security Onion, right? And then he sits you down, right? That's, to me, honestly, the best way of getting this data is through Security Onion. And the reason this is because much like Mick said that the DBAs are going to hate you if you ask them to turn on like crazy, crazy logging, almost all DNS logging is found under a little tab called debug. You know what I did there? Yeah, I didn't enable it. Yeah, because I'm an admin. Why would I enable anything that says debug? That is lame. So no one's going to do that. You could get clever and look at the client DNS cache. You're going to do what? Just because you can doesn't mean you ever should. That's stupid. But I've seen tools that do this. That's cute. Get a job, right? Figure out how to do this right. Network sensor, network extraction is the way to do this. You're not going to put any extra burden on the servers. You're just going to slap it in a span port. You're going to deploy SecOnion sensors, which give you much more than this. But this is your gateway drug, right? So I'm your SecOnion pusher. I'm like, hey, man, just taste it. Just a little bit of DNS. Just a little bit of DNS. It's not going to hurt nobody. Just a little bit of DNS. Then you're like, oh, man, I want full PCAP, right? That's what's going to happen, okay? So you're welcome. You're welcome. All right, well, that's what I got. And you can get, well, this and all my prezzies are at cyber.gd. Another TLD you should probably block, right? But it was cheap. It was cheap, and it was cyber good, right? Not cyber bad, okay?